Hi everyone, it's Trish Kendall. A key behavior to creating enduring relationships, whether that's personally or professionally, is curiosity. We have to be curious about the person that we're interacting with, curious about them as a person or their family or their upbringing or their organization, their team, the issues that they're dealing with, whatever. If we're not curious, we're not asking the meaningful questions that spark or nurture a relationship, and we're not hanging on to what they're sharing with us. Now, I believe that we can each create a curiosity habit. I don't think it's something that you have to be born with, although I have experienced people who I think are just born curious about everything, and that's awesome. But if you're like me, I have created a curiosity habit. And one of the things that I do that I'm going to share with you what I do, and then I'm going to give you a quick little story of how this came to life the last couple of days. So one of the things that I do is whenever somebody who I care for or who I admire or who I want to build a relationship with, if they recommend an article, a webinar, a podcast, a book, I keep a running tally of these things, and especially podcasts, which are really easy for me to listen to at 1.5 or 1.75 speed when I'm in the car or I'm at the airport. But I'll write down on my iPhone on a little to-do list what the person recommended, and then I'll for sure make sure that I loop back with them after I read it. But here's the thing, because oftentimes I'm interacting with people who are not like me, who have experienced different things and have different likes and dislikes. They expose me to things that I wouldn't naturally go and watch or read or listen to. And not all of the time, but a lot of the time when I do watch, listen, or read what's been recommended, I learned something. For sure, I learned something I didn't know, but my curiosity is sparked. It's interesting. It's novel. Sometimes I'm a little embarrassed because I'm behind the times with something. So for example, I posted about this a couple months ago. My father-in-law recommended a Freakonomics podcast, an episode on immigration. Now I know the book Freakonomics, never read it. Certainly didn't follow the Freakonomics podcast, but because my father-in-law recommended it when we were sitting outside on a Friday night, I was like, oh, the next day as I was driving Sammy to soccer, it's like, I'll listen to this. It was really interesting. It tapped into and triggered some curiosity. And because I liked it so much, I started following Freakonomics, and then that led me to another episode, which I'm going to get to my little story here. And the episode was talking about Live Golf and the PGA Tour. And it was a repeat episode. So this was before Live Golf and the PGA Tour were talking about merging. But I found it fascinating. And I'm not a golfer. My husband golfs, but he's not a golfer. I found it fascinating. And I was really curious about it. So I dug deeper and did some research to understand more of the dynamics. Okay, put that aside. Whatever. Just this week, I was with my colleague and his client. My colleague invited me and asked me to help him out with some work he's doing with his client. And during a break, my colleague and our client were chatting it up, and we were talking about certain things. And our client brought up Live Golf and the PGA Tour. It doesn't matter the backstory of why he brought it up, but he brought it up and the merger. And immediately I was like, in my brain, it's like, oh my gosh, I know this, or I know foundationally. And what I got excited about isn't that I was like, oh, I know this. That's not what it was about. It was that I felt curious in that moment. I didn't have to try to care. I didn't have to, I really felt curious about what this person thought, his perspective, and the story that he told around the merger or potential merger. And he's a great storyteller. So I found myself being super curious about what we were talking about, which started from actually knowing what we were talking about and being curious with the podcast, which led to being even more curious when I was talking to this client. And I care about this client now, so my curiosity is even enhanced even more. So whatever, I just thought that was really cool. It fuels my curiosity habit. When people recommend that I watch, read, or listen to something, I run a tally, I keep track of it, I go and I do it, I always follow up with them, but mostly I'm learning and experiencing and fueling my own curiosity habit. Choose and become.